John Henry Newman lived between 1801 and 1890. He was a leader of the 19th century Oxford revival movement, and among his parochial and plain sermons leaves us the following gem: the religion of the day. It begins as follows. In every age of Christianity, since it was first preached, there has been what may be called a religion of the world, which so far imitates the one true religion as to deceive the unstable and the unwary. The world does not oppose religion as such. I may say it has never opposed it. In particular, it has in all ages acknowledged, in one sense or other, the gospel of Christ, fastened on to one or other of its characteristics, and professed to embody this in its practice, while by neglecting the other parts of the holy doctrine it has, in fact, distorted and corrupted even that portion of it which it has exclusively put forward, and so has contrived to explain away the whole. For he who cultivates only one precept of the gospel to the exclusion of the rest, in reality attends to no part at all. Our duties balance each other, and though we are too sinful to perform them all perfectly, yet we may in some measure be performing them all, and preserving the balance on the whole. Whereas, to give ourselves only to this or that commandment is to incline our minds in a wrong direction, and at length to pull them down to the earth, which is the aim of our adversary, the devil. It is his aim to break our strength, to force us down to the earth, to bind us there. The world is his instrument for this purpose, but he is too wise to set it in open opposition to the word of God. No, he affects to be a prophet like the prophets of God. He calls his servants also prophets, and they mix with the scattered remnant of the true church, with the solitary micas who are left upon the earth, and speak in the name of the Lord. And in one sense they speak the truth, but it is not the whole truth. And we know even from the common experience of life that half the truth is often the most gross and mischievous of falsehoods. Even in the first age of the church, when persecution still raged, he set up a counter-religion among the philosophers of the day, partly like Christianity, but in truth a bit of fade to it. And it deceived and made shipwreck of the faith of those who had not the love of God in their hearts. Time went on, and he devised a second idol of the true Christ, and it remained in the temple of God for many a year. The age was rude and fierce. Satan took the darker side of the gospel, its awful mysteriousness, its fearful glory, its sovereign inflexible justice, and here his picture of the truth ended. God is a consuming fire. So declares the text, and we know it. But we know more, vis-a-vis that God is love also. But Satan did not add this to his religion, which became one of fear. The religion of the world was then a fearful religion. Superstitions abounded and cruelties. The noble firmness, the graceful austerity of the true Christian was superseded by forbidding spectres, harsh of eye, and the haughty of brow, and these were the patterns of the tyrants of a beguiled people. What is Satan's device in this day? A far different one, but perhaps more pernicious. I will attempt to expose it, or rather to suggest some remarks towards its exposure, by those who think it worthwhile to attempt it. For the subject is too great and too difficult for an occasion such as the present, and after all no one can detect falsehood for another. Every man must do it for himself, We can but help each other. What is the world's religion now? It has taken the brighter side of the gospel, its tidings of comfort, its precepts of love, its darker, deeper views of man's condition, and prospects being comparatively forgotten. This is the religion natural to a civilised age, and well has Satan dressed and completed it into an idol of the truth. As the reason is cultivated, the tastes formed, the affections and sentiments refined, a general decency and grace will of course spread over the face of society, quite independently of the influence of revelation. That beauty and delicacy of thought which is so attractive in books then extends to the conduct of life, to all we have, all we do, all we are. Our manners are courteous. We avoid giving pain or offence. Our words become correct. Our relative duties are carefully performed. Our sense of propriety shows itself even in our domestic arrangements, in the embellishment of our houses, in our amusements, and so also in our religious profession. Life now becomes unseemly and hideous to the imagination, or, as it is sometimes familiarly said, out of taste. Thus elegance is gradually made the test and standard of virtue, which is no longer thought to possess an intrinsic claim in our hearts or to exist, further than it leads to the quiet and comfort of others. Conscience is no longer recognised as an independent arbiter of actions. Its authority is explained away. Partly it is superseded in the minds of men by the so-called moral sense, which is regarded merely as the love of the beautiful, partly by the rule of expediency, which is forthwith substituted for it in the details of conduct. Now, conscience is a stern, gloomy principle. It tells us of guilt and of prospective punishment. Accordingly, when its terrors disappear, then disappear also in the creed of the day those fearful images of divine wrath in which the scriptures abound. They are explained away. Everything is bright and cheerful. Religion is pleasant and easy. Benevolence is the chief virtue. Intolerance, bigotry, excess of zeal are the first of sins. Austerity is an absurdity. Even firmness is looked on with an unfriendly, suspicious eye. On the other hand, all oath and profligacy is discountenanced. Drunkenness is accounted a disgrace. Cursing and swearing are vulgarities. Moreover, to a cultivated mind, which recreates itself in the varieties of literature and knowledge, and is interested in the ever-accumulating discoveries of science and the ever-fresh accessions of information, political and or otherwise, from foreign countries, religion will commonly seem to be dull from want of novelty. Hence, excitements are eagerly sought out and rewarded. New objects in religion, new systems and plans, new doctrines, new preachers are necessary to satisfy that craving which the so-called spread of knowledge has created. The mind becomes morbidly sensitive and fastidious, dissatisfied with things as they are, desirous of a change as such, as if alteration must of itself be a relief. Newman's vision of Christianity and the idols that distort and mimic its true nature is a prescient warning to us in our own times. In Romans 1:18-28 we read, "The wrath of God is being revealed from heaven against all the godliness and wickedness of people, who suppress the truth by their wickedness, since what may be known about God is plain to them, because God has made it plain to them. For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly seen, being understood for what has been made, so that people are without excuse. For although they knew God, They never glorified him as God nor gave thanks to him. For their thinking became futile, and their foolish hearts were darkened. Although they claimed to be wise, they became fools, and exchanged the glory of the immortal God for images made to look like a mortal human being, and birds and animals and reptiles. Therefore God gave them over, in the sinful desires of their hearts, to sexual impurity, for the degrading of their bodies with one another. They exchanged the truth of God for a lie, and worshipped and served created things rather than the Creator, who is forever praised. Amen. Because of this, God gave them over to shameful lust. Even their women exchanged natural sexual relations for unnatural ones. In the same way, the men also abandoned natural relations with women and were inflamed with lust for one another. Men committed shameful acts with other men and received themselves the due penalty for their error. Furthermore, just as they did not think of it worthwhile to retain the knowledge of God, so God gave them over to a depraved mind, so that they do what ought not to be done. They have become filled with every kind of wickedness, evil, greed, and depravity. They are full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, and malice. They are gossips, slanderers, God-haters, insolent, arrogant, and boastful. They invent ways of doing evil. They disobey their parents. They have no understanding, no fidelity, no love, no mercy. Although they know God's righteous decree that those who do such things deserve death, they not only continue to do these very things, but also approve of those who practice them. Unless we're serious about our relationship with God and seek the truth openly and honestly in the authentic spirit of Jesus Christ, we, like the people of Paul's day and those of John Henry Newman's day in the 19th century, will be unable to discern truth from falsehood, good from evil, and gospel from pseudo-Gospel. Indeed, Newman warns us that both polarised thought and false accommodation are equally dangerous in the spiritual life. Wisdom lies in discerning when to hold fast and when to bend. Without drinking deeply of the wisdom of the gospel, our decisions will be out of season and out of time. Truth lies in the stone rejected by the builders.